Howdy gamers. In this video I'm not so much going to be talking about what runes to run on Urgot, but more so the runes that are explaining why the runes that are good on him are good and the couple of options that you do have in the runes. So with the keystones, Urgot's only really good choices are Press the Attack, Conquer, and then I suppose Unsealed Spellbook, but with the way that his current itemization is, and currently how the meta is in the top lane, Unsealed Spellbook is a lot harder to use, as if you're losing the laning tool in either Press the Attack or Conquer, and then a lot of what's offered in the precision tree as well, to trade that off for Unsealed Spellbook becomes this more scaling option. Scaling option in terms of utility versus damage, and if Urgot doesn't have damage, then he's actually not that useful of a champion. You can get damage through the utility offered from the summoner spells with Unsealed Spellbook through Ignite, Exhaust, Barrier, etc. But I think it's better off gotten through itemization and then also through the runes themselves, because they're all pretty good for Urgot, and to exchange them for the utility in Unsealed Spellbook, there are champions that just do that better in the top lane, Ornn being like the best example off the top of my head. But if you were to go the Unsealed Spellbook page, I suppose it would be Unsealed Spellbook, Magical Footwear, Biscuits, and then probably Cosmic Insight. The cooldown reduction giving you more Qs, and then that equating to more damage. You could also run Approach Velocity, but I don't think Urgot would really need it. And then for the secondary page, that's where you run into some trouble, where you would either run Resolve for the defense or Precision for the damage. But I think Resolve would be pretty necessary to survive the laning phase, and then also get access to a little bit of damage. But I don't think that's the best rune page for Urgot, and for the reasons being that missing out on the laning tools does feel really, really, really bad for Urgot, and the Summoner Spell utility is better used on other tank champions, as Urgot can actually dish out a lot of damage. So I think that I think that the two best keystones for him is going to be Press the Attack and Conquer, both offering him damage in different ways. Other keystones that you might consider, I guess, would be something like Arcane Comet. It could add to your Q poke, but it's really about maxing W on Urgot now, compared to, let's say, Season 9 Urgot. So the Q poke that you could build up with Arcane Comet isn't as significant. It's also really important to have a good all-in with Urgot, because that's a lot of what your kit is. Getting the enemy low and then flipping them, and then you basically have an all-in from there. And then once you're on top of them, it's very important that you're going to be out-damaging them, out-sustaining them, etc. while you've all-in them. And Press the Attack and Conquer help you do so. So starting off with Press the Attack. With Press the Attack, hitting an enemy champion with 3 consecutive basic attacks deals bonus damage based off of your level, and then also exposes them, increasing all damage they take from all sources. So it's going to be amplifying your own damage as well as maybe your junglers. And then in a team fight, whenever you isolate a target, it's going to be increasing the damage from your entire team, so long that you get the 3 auto attacks off. But your W is also going to be proccing Press the Attack really, really quickly, and it's going to be doing that basically immediately as you flip someone, and then it's going to be increasing all the damage that you deal if you get all of the passive procs off from moving around the target that you hit. So you can be increasing a lot of your own damage with Press the Attack. The problem with Press the Attack is that it doesn't give you any healing, and it really only works in an all-in compared to Conquer. Conquer can help you in short trades, and then when those short trades become extended trades in the top lane, then Conquer still gains the value. Press the Attack's damage values is also really strange, as it's really good into tanks and it's really good into squishy targets, but bruiser champions it's not so good into. So most champions in the top lane right now, champions like Mordekaiser, Irelia, etc., where they deal a lot of damage and they also can take an okay amount of damage, Press the Attack loses a lot of value against them, simply because of the types of damage that you're going to be dealing with it. If it's not enough to kill a target in one rotation of flipping them and then, spinning around them basically, then it becomes a lot worse than Conquer in that case. Against tank champions, it becomes pretty useful, as you deal this adaptive damage to them, so you can get past any resistances that they're building, and then you also expose them, dealing increased percentage damage to them. So you get that percentage damage increase, and then that helps you a lot more against a tank. Against a squishier target, it's kind of the same thing. The percentage damage increase goes a lot further, and that adaptive damage dealt with Press the Attack goes a lot further in an all-in. So I think against squishy champions, the top lane, especially non-meta ones, think about like Sona, Soraka, Lucian, Quinn, Basically every ADC, every support, every non-standard top laner, press the attack is okay into. But against almost every single meta top lane, I think Conquer is going to be better. And I think you should be looking to run Conquer on Urgot because it gives you a lot more of like a 1v9 potential if you're winning on him. And even if things are even, it's still pretty useful. Press the attack has its unique use cases, and I think you should look to run it again against squishier champions in the top lane. But most of the time, I think Conquer is going to be your best bet. With Conquer, your basic attacks and spells that deal damage to enemy champions grant you 2 stacks of Conquer, giving you bonus adaptive force based on your level. Since you're the top laner, you're going to be getting about the second most levels in the game, so you're going to be getting more value out of that quicker. And then once Conquer is fully stacked, you heal for 15% of the damage that you deal to champions. And it takes about 6 seconds for Conquer to fall off after you're out of combat, so it can stay going for a pretty long amount of time, even in like short trades in the top lane. So with Conquer, you're going to be missing out on a little bit of damage in an all-in early. If in terms of your burst, compared to running press the attack, but what you get is a lot of AD. That AD is really, really useful in the earlier parts of the lane in which you have Corrupting Potion, Doran's Blade, and then your trades with Conquer, and then with those 2 items, you have a lot of healing behind your kit once you go in, so it makes things a lot safer. So even if you're not necessarily killing your lane opponent, you can still be at a way more dominant position where you put them at, let's say, 30% HP while you're still at around 80% HP. It can be almost better than a kill if you're getting a proper freeze off and getting lane control from that. Whenever you start 2v2ing, Conqueror also gets a lot of value as a lot of Urgot's damage is AoE, so that's going to be converting into more healing because you're healing for 50% of damage you deal to champions. So once you're hitting 2 champions, you're just healing more. And when you start team fighting, that's exacerbated as well. The healing from Conqueror plus Corrupting Potion plus Lifesteal, and then eventually a Death's Dance makes things just a lot better for him because it's really important that he's dealing meaningful damage and then also sustaining a fight whenever he's actually in it. And it's also important that he finishes off a target that he gets on top of, or else his ult is kind of useless and then he becomes really useless as a champion if all of that doesn't happen. So the AD becomes really, really useful in the earlier stages, whether you're sitting on 2 items, your 2 early items in Corrupting Potion and Doran's Blade, or even on your first completed item in like a Black Cleaver, the bonus AD offered from Conqueror is still going to be really, really useful. So with that, Urgot also stacks it up really fast. Against every Bruiser champion, you need to contend with their Conqueror as well, or else you're just kind of at a loss. So in the top lane, it's going to be your best skirmishing tool and then also your better 1v9 tool. For the runes, for the secondary runes, since we're in the precision tree, you have options of, I suppose, Overheal and Triumph. Overheal seems kind of like a hack in the top lane. Maybe if you're playing into a ranged matchup or something, Overheal could be okay, as you can have healing from, again, Corrupting Potion and Doran's Blade, but it's way harder to use than Triumph. With Triumph, takedowns restore 12% of your missing health and grant you additional 20 gold. Since Urgot's entire kit revolves around executing one target, it's really easy to get Triumph off, and then with the HP restored with Triumph, it's going to help you stay in a fight and then just be more useful. Since health is Urgot's main resource, really, it helps you get into position to actually damage champions, then it's really, really important to get that back once you kill one target so that you can stay in the fight and then continue to be useful and deal more damage. And then for the third rune here, you have good options in Legend Tenacity or Bloodline. Tenacity obviously helping you against tank champions like Maokai, where they have a lot of CC in the top lane, Maokai, Zac, etc. Whenever you're considering which one to run, really consider like the rest of the map too. If they have a tank jungler, if they have a CC support like Leona Thresh, really consider running Tenacity outside of just your lane matchup in the top lane, because a lot of lane matchups in the top lane, you won't need Tenacity into like almost every Bruiser matchup and whatnot. Tenacity doesn't do anything for you. So in those matchups where you don't need Tenacity, I think you should look to run Legend Bloodline. With Legend Bloodline, you just get access to lifesteal for basically existing in the game. You get it through getting kills and assists, large monster takedowns, large monster kills, minion kills, etc. So almost doing anything in the game. You get access to this extra lifesteal, and in combination with Conquer, Triumph, Corrupting Potion, Doran's Blade, etc., you're going to have a lot of free healing just for basically existing. And again, where you're maxing the W on Urgot, you're going to be applying that lifesteal with it. So gives you just more sustain in a fight, and having that more effective HP, it just is usually more useful than the Tenacity. So when you can, look to run the Tenacity, but the default should be Bloodline, I think. For the 4th rune here, even though you do have an Execute in your kit, I do think that Last Stand is going to be better, as with Coup de Grace, you deal 8% more damage to champions who have less than 40% health. I don't think you really need this, as you have an Execute in your kit already. So it's mostly about getting them low enough to finish them off with the R than it is to deal more damage to them when they're low. Because yes, you're going to be dealing more damage to them, but you only need to get an auto or two, or maybe hit one more ability to actually kill them whenever you land your ult on them. So I think Coup de Grace loses a lot of value in that sense. Even though Urgot does have a lot of damage uptime, I just see it being pretty anti-synergistic with the way that his kit functions. So I think your best bet is Last Stand. With Last Stand, you deal 5 to 11% increased damage to champions while you are below 60% HP, and then the max damage is gained at 30%. So you get a way bigger damage increase, and it's way more likely that you get to this as you're spending your HP early to build up Conquer and then also get on top of the enemy in the first place. So it's a really synergistic runes. It helps you, like, whenever you're going blow for blow against every bruiser champion, it just helps you so much. It gives you so much more damage than Conquer is going to, or than Coup de Grace is going to give you. If you're running Press the Attack, Coup de Grace may gain a bit more value as you're just looking to one-shot a target, but with Conquer, Last Stand's always going to be better for that reason. Just helps you exist in the fight and then deal more damage regardless of the situation, whether you're winning or losing. For these secondary runes, I think that your best bet is always going to be Resolve with Shield Bash and Bone Plating. I suppose Overgrowth would be fine too. I don't see anyone really running this. With Shield Bash, whenever you're shielded, you gain Armor and Magic Resist based on your level. It's a really negligible amount. And then whenever you gain a shield, your next basic attack against a champion deals bonus damage based off your level, max health, and then the value of the shield. So every time you're flipping someone, then you're going to be getting a little bit of extra damage, and I suppose a little bit of extra tankiness, but it's really just about the extra damage that adds. And then with Bone Plating gives you a lot of effective HP, and you want to be picking Urgot into melee champions anyways, so Bone Plating is going to be giving you insane value whenever you do. With Bone Plating, after you take damage from an enemy champion, the next 3 spells or attacks you receive from them deal 30 to 60 based on your level less damage, and then it's on a 45-second cooldown. So basically every time you're all-inning a melee champion, you're just going to have more effective HP over them. That effective HP, they have to get through the Bone Plating before they even start damaging you. So it gives you time to build up Conquer, gives you time to build up like just damage against the enemy, and yeah, just playing with that, it just puts things way more in your favor. If you're playing into a ranged matchup or a champion that has a lot of poke, champions like Rumble, I can't really think of a poke. Rumble, a poke champion in the top lane. Rumble, Lucian, a ranged matchup. Second Wind is completely fine. As with Second Wind, it doesn't have a cooldown like Bone Plating does. This 45 seconds is really significant. Second Wind's cooldown is basically 10 seconds, and it can be applied over and over again. So in a ranged matchup, you should look to take Doran's Shield and then run Second Wind, as you're just going to have a lot more effective HP from those. With Second Wind, after you take damage from an enemy champion, you heal for 4% of your missing health, plus 6 over 10 seconds. And with that, you just heal so much in the laning phase, and makes the lane just a lot easier for you. You could replace Shield Bash with Overgrowth, like I said. With Overgrowth, you absorb life essence from monsters or enemy minions that die near you, permanently gaining 3 maximum health for every 8 that you absorb. And then whenever you've absorbed 120 monsters or enemy minions, you gain an additional 3.5% maximum health. So that's going to give you a little bit over Ruby Crystal. In combination with the first item that you're building, usually in Black Cleaver, it just gives you a lot more HP to play with. You do lose out on a bit of the laning tool in Shield Bash, but it's not that bad because Shield Bash really is kind of whatever. It's mostly about the damage that Bone Plating's blocking, and then having more effective HP to play with for just existing in the lane is a really, really solid rune, and I don't see many people running it. So that's that. And then other secondary rune options that you have would be like Inspiration. You could run Biscuits and Time Warp Tonic. This is like the classic skirmishing and lane tool. Biscuits giving you get a biscuit every 2 minutes until 6, and the biscuits restore 10% of your missing health in mana, and then permanently increase your mana by 50. And with that, like Urgot doesn't need the mana from these, and that's the most important part, really. And he also doesn't need like the sustain from the 10% missing health. And then with Time Warp Tonic, your potions and biscuits, you receive 50% of its HP and mana regeneration immediately. Like, that's fine. But I don't know a matchup in which this would, like the sustain from both of these and the all-in potential from Biscuits and Time Warp Tonic in combination with Corrupting Potion, I don't see those outweighing Bone Plating alone, because Bone Plating is just so useful for Urgot. And then in ranged matchups, the same thing, where Second Wind would just be outweighing like both of these combined for Urgot, because he just really doesn't trade with his mana. He really trades with his HP because of the way his W functions. So that's my thoughts on that. Anything in the sorcery tree is kind of wasted on Urgot. You could run something like the scaling option in like Mana Flow and Transcendence, but it's really low value on Urgot compared to like a Gangplank or something. If you're playing into an AP matchup, maybe you could consider running No Lord Transcendence, having a scaling option there if you have a losing AP matchup, but very rare instance. But you can consider that on most tank top laners, as Nullifying Orb is just really useful, and then the 10% CDR is usually useful on tanks. For the Domination Tree second, I also think it's kind of wasted. You can run Taste of Blood and then Ravenous Hunter. Taste of Blood giving you effective HP, and then Ravenous Hunter healing you based off a percentage of damage dealt by your abilities. I don't think that this is that good on most top laners, because it's based off Bounty Hunter stacks. With Bounty Hunter stacks, you earn them through getting unique takedowns on an enemy champion. To get a unique takedown on an enemy champion from the top lane is a lot harder than almost any other role, because you can really kill your own lane a lot, but it's not really up to you to get kills or assists like on the mid lane or the enemy bot lane, the enemy jungler, etc. So it's really hard to stack this up, and you give up so much in your laning tools with Shield Bash and Bone Plating, or even Biscuits and Time Warp. Like, you just give up so much, and these two runes in combination also don't function that well in the top lane, because the damage that Taste of Blood is offsetting is so much less useful in the top lane than it is in the mid lane, as you're not just trading ranged autos. You're not trading like one abilities. Like, top laners trade like 3 or 4 abilities, and it's really important that you can endure those and then retaliate your own. So I really don't like Domination on Urgot for that reason. So, and then for the shards, I think it's going to be Adaptive Force, and then depending on your matchup, obviously you want to switch the armor and magic resist. If you're into an AD matchup, obviously you want the armor, and then if you're into an AP matchup, you obviously want the magic resist. If you're playing into a losing matchup, I think that running double resistances would be completely fine, as you could run like double armor, double magic resist, or even like armor scaling health, as you would still have the damage early, but since you want to be attacking your lane early anyways, you could exploit like a losing matchup through the levels and then getting more HP per level with the HP shard, versus just having the flat resistances and then the double Adaptive Force. The CDR rune is okay, but I don't think it's that useful for Urgot since he's maxing W now. And then the attack speed shard is also okay, but I still think that the double Adaptive Force is just more valuable, as in combination with Conquer, just having lots of flat AD is more useful than having this attack speed, especially with the way that his W functions. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Urgot runes. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I try to answer most of them. If this video helped you, leaving a like on the video helps me. You can also subscribe. You should subscribe. You will subscribe. I know you, man. It's just League of Legends content on here. Don't worry about it. And twitch.tv/SorryNelson. Links in the description. Yeah, I hope I covered everything. I think I did. Just a brief rundown. Conquer into Bruisers, press the attack, and coup de grace into squishier champions. Unsealed Spellbook into like hard losing matchups in which you're only providing utility for your team, but for some reason you picked Urgot instead of Ornn. Alrighty. Hope that helps. Peace out, man.